Hi there, I'm Danny Flexen. Welcome to the latest edition of SecondsOut FLEXpectations. We're here every Thursday, 4:30 PM, to talk about the boxing actions come over the weekend. And to be honest, this is probably the most excited I've been for a boxing weekend for probably the whole of the year. It's hard to remember much that happened pre-COVID, to be fair, but some people might call it quantity over quality. There's three interesting shows taking place, all of which can be watched here in the UK. And we've had bigger single fight weeks, Usyk Chisora recently, White Povetkin, the culmination of fight camp and so on and so forth. But I guess personal investment plays a part, and I'm certainly very interested to see if Kell Brook can turn back the clock and somehow unseat Terence Crawford as the WBO welterweight champion out in the US, pound for pound contender as well, of course, Bud Crawford. And also I'm very interested in Denzel Bentley and Mark Heffron, two really great guys who I've got the opportunity to know relatively well and who put on a cracker of a first fight not too long ago and are going straight back in, but this time with the coveted Lonsdale belt on the line at middleweight. That's Frank Warren's show tomorrow night, Friday night, on BT Sport. And you've also got the Matchroom triple header, history making, three female fights as the top three on the bill. Not affected by COVID as far as we know, so they're all going ahead, which is great. And just, I think also the fact that there's already been a couple of shows this week. The Boxer show kicked off the week with Zach Chelli cruising to the title. You can see highlights of that on the channel. And then last night there was the MTK show where Macaulay McGowan put on a typically brave and resilient performance, but was ultimately outclassed in the main event. But yeah, so it's probably been the busiest week of boxing since the lockdown restrictions were eased. Obviously, we're back in a form of lockdown at the moment, but boxing isn't letting that, deter it. And I think the Frank Warren show is a great example of that, in that if you haven't seen the news, or even if you have, I'll recap it. 3 of the fights on the Frank Warren show for tomorrow night were scrapped at very short notice because of failures of COVID tests by people in fighters' camps. And that included a fight that I was highly anticipating, having interviewed both recently and knowing their styles. Michael Rama-Beleza, the English super bantamweight champion, against the Southern Area champion in Chris Bork. Someone in Rama-Beleza's camp tested positive. They're hoping that might be rescheduled still before the end of the year. Warren's got another 2 big shows, obviously, in the coming weeks, with Dubois, Joyce and Fury against another, probably Ajit Kabayel. So we'll wait and see with that. But yeah, 3 fights. The Casey Kadimi fight was also scrapped, and one of the undercard ones. And I think Louis Lin's fight was lost earlier in the week for the same reason. So that show's been condensed, it's fair to say. But luckily, we've still got the main event. And we'll talk about that show first, as we're doing this in chronological order. Friday night, first of all, BT Sport. And yeah, the first fight between Heffron and Bentley was really, really good, I thought. Bentley scored an early knockdown. Heffron insists that didn't affect how he approached the rest of the fight, but he certainly came on in the second half and won a lot of those middle to late rounds. Bentley was operating off the back foot mostly, picking his counters very well, accurate for the most part, but probably as he tired in the second half, found himself against the ropes and in the corners more than he and his team would have liked. Heffron, his pressure became more intelligent and more consistent as the fight went on, and he landed the telling shots. He buzzed Bentley 8th or the 9th, I think it was the 9th round. And obviously this one's over 12 rather than 10. I'm not sure what effect that will have. But being for the vacant British middleweight title, Liam Williams, on the verge of a world title shot, has given that belt up. And the winner has to face Felix Cash, the Commonwealth champion, and I spoke to him last night, so that video will probably be live before you watch this, if you watch this. If you don't, who am I talking to anyway? Yeah, it'll probably be live today. You can see what he has to say about who he thinks is going to win and about facing the winner of that one. He's very keen, needless to say, to do so and to add the British title, the coveted Lonsdale belt, to his Commonwealth title. First fight was a cracker. I spoke to Martin Bowers of the Peacock, Denzel Bentley's trainer, this morning, just about some other stuff. But he was just on his way to the gym in the fight hotel with Bentley, and he said that because I said I think they might be a bit more standoffish this time around, you know, because Heffron got knocked down early, won't want that to happen again. Bentley knows he faded late on, so he'll want to be more consistent with his pacing and won't want to throw too many shots early. And Martin, thankfully for the fans, disagreed and said he thinks it'll be a ding-dong, his words. But yeah, accurate, I think. He thinks it'll be a ding-dong. He thinks they'll go at it from early on because they know what's at stake and they don't want it to be close like it was last time. So we shall see, but I'm just relieved that fight survived the COVID issues that have scrapped 3 others, because it was a cracking fight the first time around. Then we move on to Saturday night. First of all, over here, because of the time zones, Matchroom have made this show, and credit to them, made it available to non-subscribers of Sky Sports, or Sky Sports have made it available as well as Matchroom made this show available to people via their social channels, including YouTube and the Sky Sports website. So people can watch it for free, even if you're not a Sky Sports subscriber. Katie Taylor in the main event against Miriam Gutierrez, one of her mandatory contenders. She is, of course, Katie, the undisputed lightweight world champion. We all want to see her in bigger fights, of course. She's vying, I suppose, for that pound-for-pound title alongside Clarissa Shields. I'd say she's second place, Katie, at the moment. But there's big fights out there for her. If she seemed, in the conference call this week, she seemed hungry for some of those, but she's got to get past Gutierrez first. And she seemed pretty confident in the build-up as well, so that should be an interesting fight. A lot of eyes will be on Terry Harper, who defends against she's the WBC super featherweight champion. She defends against the interim champion for that body in Katrina Tanders, who has been waiting a little while for her shot now. She seems incredibly confident, actually. We were talking about Gutierrez, but Tanders seems like someone who's based over here. She seems very comfortable coming over to the US to challenge Harper. She's very big for the weight at super feather. She's aggressive, strong. Harper will look to get back to her boxing, not get drawn in. She said that a number of times, as she did against Natasha Jonas in that debatable decision victory last time out. Great interview on the channel at the moment, not just saying it because I did it, but more for Steffi Ball, Terry Harper's trainer and manager. Really opens up. It's about 40 minutes long, so you'll need to set aside some time. But he really opens up about some of the like abuse and online bullying that Harper's had to deal with since getting that victory over Jonas. Obviously, fighters don't make the decisions. It should be reaffirmed. But getting back to the fight, Harper will want to stick to her boxing a bit more, use her natural advantages in height and reach, and outbox, outwork Tanders. But I think that could easily be the fight of the night. And Rachel Ball, of course, who won a lot of people's hearts with her, down-to-earth approach in the build-up to and after upsetting Shannon Courtney back at Fight Camp. She's now fighting for the vacant WBA bantamweight title. It was going to be against Ebony Bridges, but Bridges unfortunately had to withdraw with an injury, and now she fights Juanini, I think. I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce it. It might be Juanini, who's come over. I don't know a lot about her. I'm not going to try and bluff or kid that I'm an expert on this, or that I've done extensive research on Juanini or Gunani. I don't even know how to spell her name, say her name. So obviously not done sufficient research on that fight. But it is the third fight down the bill, so I'm going to give myself a pass. But we're all keen to see, I think, how Rachel Ball is getting on. So and some good undercard fights as well. So that'll be really interesting to watch. Free for everyone as well. Can't argue with that. And history in the making. First female triple header on British TV. I've got to think. I can't imagine there's ever been one before. And it'll be interesting to see how it performs. I mean, the fact it's available on all platforms means the viewing figures are going to be pretty good regardless. But it'll be interesting because there's been so much talk recently about female pay and equality with men. And I think, as a lot of female boxers and fight figures have pointed out, Ramla Ali being, who's on the undercard, being the one of the foremost advocates of this, that female boxers will need to create that demand. And once the demand is similar to the men's, so will the pay be. And I think that's fair enough. So this is a big test to see if the demand is there. It's certainly not going to be the same as a men's high quality triple header, and we probably wouldn't be able to afford to put on a men's high quality triple header without pay-per-view anyway. But it should give us an indication of if it's growing as an attraction. And then, in the early hours of Sunday morning, which I certainly will not be watching live, as big a boxing fan as I am, I have a 4-year-old child who will be awake at around 7 o'clock on Sunday morning. So as much as I'd like to get up about 4, watch the fight, and then go straight into, Daddy Danny Day, I don't really fancy it, to be honest. I like my sleep. I need my beauty sleep. I'm sure everyone would agree. So I'll be watching it recorded the next day. It's on Premier Sport, of course, here in the UK. They've done a good job in picking it up. For Sky Sports, obviously, people know all about the issues there, didn't pick it up. So fair play to Premier Sports for that. And as everyone said, it's the most overused phrase in fight week, and even in the week preceding fight week. It's a tough ask for Kell Brook, which I often think among kind of people who are close to Brook, or UK people who don't want to pick against him, is code for he's going to lose. But I think in some cases they really do mean it's a tough ask, but there is a slim possibility that he could pull it off. So this is the key. Kell Brook at his best, and this is what Dominic Ingle alluded to in the interview that's doing good numbers on the channel at the moment. At his best, he's a world-class operator. His timing, his accuracy, his jab are all world-class attributes. And if he can regain the form that saw him reign as IBF welterweight champion, that saw him go over to the US previously and unseat an informed Sean Porter, in what was an ugly fight, and one that I did actually stay up for. I have memories of where I was and everything, but horrible fight. If he can regain anything like that sort of form, then he gives Crawford a really hard fight, because he is seasoned, he has fought better people than Crawford has, and he's the bigger guy, naturally, physically strong if he's made the weight safely. There are a lot of ifs, as you can already tell. And his timing and accuracy is something that will give Crawford, who likes to change angles, switch, move around, will give him problems. Because Brook, if he doesn't feel the need to chase the fight, if he banks some rounds early with his jab and doesn't feel the need to chase Crawford and kind of wait, set up his counters off the front foot, because that is his style. He's a front foot counter puncher, similar in a way to Golovkin, who he of course fought, which a bridge too far, a weight too far, 2 weights too far maybe. Then I think it makes it a very, very interesting contest. I'm not going out on a limb and picking the upset. I've got a lot of affection for Kell. I've known him for a long time, but a few things do worry me. How safely he's made the weight after so long not making 147, and the infamous struggles he had to make that limit previously. I'm also worried that he's not got Dominic Ingle in the corner, who's his long-time trainer, or a recognisable trainer that we all know about. He's got Carlos Formento, who I believe has trained people in Spain mainly before. He brought the Spanish guy over who lost to Sam Eggington for the European title. Seferino Gonzalez Garcia. I'm not doing well with names today. Either way, he's not an inexperienced trainer, but he's not someone we know about as a proven world-class guy in the corner. And not only that, they haven't been together for very long. So even if he's like an amazing trainer, even if it was Sugar Hill Stewart or Ben Davison or Shane McGuigan or Freddie Roach, I don't know, I'm going to miss people out. Peter Fury, I could keep going. But in the corner with Kell Brook, you still wouldn't be sure that that bond was there and that they understand each other well enough to have an effective game plan and to be effective relationship in the corner during the intervals as well. So that's another major concern. So we shall see how that pans out. On the flip side of that, though, there's no IBF rule anymore where Kell Brook can only rehydrate to 10 pounds more than the weight he weighs in at. Sounds like a bit of a tongue twister. So that might help him. He might be absolutely huge on the night. And like I say, if he's done everything right and the new training partnership clicks, he's got a chance. If, however, he's anything less than 100%, and I don't mean 100% of Kell Brook now, I mean as close as possible to 100% the Kell Brook we saw in his prime, and I'm not convinced he's still there, but we shall see, then he gives him a really good fight. Anything less than that, I think Crawford has to be picked. I think Crawford starts slow, and I think Brook can start fast, so I think he might bank some early rounds, but I think the tide may start to turn around the middle rounds where Crawford gets the measure of his opponent. He's a thinking fighter, and then starts looping in those shots from hard-to-read angles, putting the pressure on a bit more, cutting the ring off a bit more, coming forward more against Brook as the latter potentially starts to tire, leading to either a clear points win or potentially a late stoppage for Crawford. But we shall see, and I think it could be a very interesting fight, however long it lasts. That's it from me, but obviously I want to hear from you guys. What's the fight you're most looking forward to over the whole weekend? And who do you think is going to be the surprise star of the weekend? So someone we're not necessarily expecting to do great things, but will come out in a better position in terms of how people are talking about them than they are now. Let us know what you think. I'll be back on Monday for reflections at 4:30 p.m. looking back on all these shows. And then next week, Thursday, I will be here to preview what would have been Povetkin White 2, but is now a normal Sky Sports show headlined by Conor Benn taking a big step up against Sebastian Formella, and I am still looking forward to that. So I'll be back for that next week, Thursday, 4:30 p.m. But until then, I really appreciate your time, and I'll see you all soon. Cheers.